Feature Fire, a podcast from Kim Baker Studios that dives into self-discovery and personal fulfillment through the shared experience of food. Hi, I'm Kim Baker, founder of Kim Baker Foods, and this is Feature Fire, a bit of a mashup discussion about life topics and food. Sometimes we'll cook, other times we'll just eat. But in each episode, we'll share stories and have a conversation that pushes us further in our relationship with ourselves and other people. To us, food is the connective tissue in life, and it's so much fun. Feel free to listen or cook with us. All recipes are posted on our website, prochiplantenergy.com. This is our first Feature Fire podcast, and naturally based on the calendar, January sets us on a path of change. It's a time of recommitment, resolution. It's clarifying, and it's often when we work towards a vision. With that in mind, this inaugural episode hits on change and the transitions that occur as we move from chapter to chapter in our lives, and how we can help support the people we love as they endure change. Some changes are mountains, and others are just a small step. Some changes are proactive. We take them on, and others are unforeseen based on some response to our environment. And even positive changes are often catalyzed by something that we had to leave behind because it no longer served us, and it has aspects of hope and loss tied up together. The discomfort of change is real, and it's pretty universal. Navigating change is a practice. In popular culture, we often talk about gratitude practice and intentionality, but we don't usually hear about change management and how that too is a practice. I like to think of life as a series of bridges that are strung together. Some bridges are long and windy, and others are so scenic and beautiful. But each one is just a passage that ends and a new one begins. And when you live life with this perspective, the transitions don't surprise you. And you can actually practice being in the here and now, each and every day, enjoying the passage that you're on. As I was thinking about recording this podcast, I was gathering the ingredients to make soup that I shipped to my sister Corinne and her boyfriend Josh. And then it hit me. That's what we're going to do together. We're going to make Corinne and Josh soup. That's the very essence of what I hope to share with you through this podcast, that connective tissue and how it weaves its way through our life and impacts our growth. So today we'll prepare their favorite creamy vegan mushroom soup together, and we're going to have this discussion about change. Now, I can only share Corinne and Josh's story as a witness to it. I don't presume to know their feelings or their thoughts. But what I have seen in their ability to navigate change and disruption is nothing short of awe-inspiring. This past April, 2 weeks after they moved in together to begin their life as a couple, Josh was diagnosed with glioblastoma. You could learn more about their story on Instagram if you follow them. Needless to say, brain cancer was a radical detour in the story that they had in their minds starting a life together. What I've been particularly struck by is their courage, positivity, and the presence that they hold throughout this process. For them, every day is kind of an in-between. There are scans and treatments and appointments, and each one is filled with emotion, physical symptoms, and all that you can imagine. And yet, they laugh, they keep with their traditions, and they face each day bravely, soaking in all that's good. Being beside them during this time has really demonstrated the power of choice and how we can approach each challenge, and also how the pain of struggle can be offset when it's diffused by love. Sharing an experience almost creates space, a space for air to come through. And though these contributions, this soup, may seem small, It will be a moment that lifts them. And for every moment that they spend lifted, their next moment begins on slightly higher ground. I feel very lucky to be able to offer them something that helps lessen the load and create just a moment of brightness. My culinary training feels like it's been put to good use. And today we're going to do that together. Josh is vegan, and Corinne at this point is sort of half vegan. And so this quote unquote creamy soup will not actually have any cream in it. We're going to use potato, and when we puree it, it will give a creamy texture that's just smooth and silky. Now, I've made an easy vegetable stock here because I'm kind of a nerd, but you can absolutely use store-bought stock. If you're interested in making some, see what you've already got in your fridge. It's a great way to use what you might just have lying around. This one has carrot, onion, celery. I had a few radishes that I threw in there. There was a parsnip. I had a half a head of cabbage. I threw in some bay leaves, parsley, peppercorns, and I just let it cook. We're going to use a variety of mushrooms in this soup: cremini, shiitake, and lion's mane. Now, the reason we're using lion's mane because it's really great for brain health, which, of course, is a great way to support Josh's recovery. But it's great for all of us, too. All right. I bought these at a local independent grocer. If you want to make it at home, use any kind of mushroom that you have on hand. Even a button mushroom will do. To make this soup, I start by sauteing mushrooms in batches with olive oil on the stove. And after I've done each batch, I throw them back into the pan, add some shallots and thyme, saute them, a little salt and pepper, and then I actually remove them from the pan and set them aside. In that same pan, I add olive oil and I saute onion. And when that onion is translucent, takes, I don't know, maybe 3 to 5 minutes, I add in garlic really quickly, 60 seconds at most. And then I add those mushrooms back to the pan, but I set about a quarter of them aside. We're going to add them back to the soup once it's pureed to give it some texture. So now we have our onions and we have our sauteed mushrooms in the pan. I go ahead and I add the strained stock in. A diced potato, I peel it and then I dice it and I put it in there. A couple more bay leaves, salt and pepper. And I just let that cook until the potatoes are fork tender and the mushroom flavors have really been absorbed into the liquid. Okay, so we're just going to let this cook for a while. And I remember when my dad passed away and my friend Emily showed up at my doorstep with a big pot of soup. It was, in fact, lentils. You all know how I feel about lentils. It's still a very clear memory in my mind. And I remember feeling so grateful that food was just one less thing that I needed to worry about. So even though she might not have been able to lessen my actual grief, I just had something as simple as dinner taken off my plate. And that gave me a little bit of extra mental bandwidth to process everything that was going on around me. My mom used to say that you need to preserve your strength. That was kind of one of her famous sayings. And I never really understood it until I reached a point in my life where I felt so depleted. And I knew that I had to be more thoughtful about building those reserves. And that included eating well, maintaining my physical well-being, managing the energy that I allowed myself to expend each day on any given item, anything happening, and how I responded to the circumstances and challenges. That was all a choice. And what I put into it was my doing. And I thoughtfully nurtured the circle of people that I shared life with. I gave to those relationships and I leaned on them when I needed them. And so this creates kind of a scaffolding under the bridges in our lives as we manage change. So today, we're actually helping to buttress the scaffolding for Corinne and Josh. And as it happens, Being a part of that actually lifts us. So even though I'm standing in an adjacent lane where they're doing all the heavy lifting each day, and I'm not able to help them carry the load directly, I know that simply by riding along beside them, it makes the road less scary. It's kind of like we're in an adjacent car in a caravan sharing a playlist. So our soup has been cooking for about 15 minutes and the potatoes are tender. Go ahead and pick out the bay leaves and then carefully blend it. I blend it in batches, putting a towel over the top of the blender every time so that the hot soup doesn't blast into my face. And then once the soup is blended, go ahead and put it into a pot. If it's thin, you could let it cook a little bit longer to reduce down. And if it's a little too thick, feel free to add water. The choice is yours. Sprinkle it with a little bit of lemon zest and parsley for some brightness, and taste it. Add a little salt and pepper if you need it. Now, as you might expect, I like to top my soup with some crunchy lentils. I use the harissa lime here. I think it's fantastic. And serve it with a piece of crusty bread. But those are totally optional things and entirely up to you. Making this soup is a reminder that we're not intended to stay still. We need to continuously nurture the foundation that we travel on because each road ends and a new one begins. And so when you near the end of a bridge or find yourself on a new one, maybe this January, think of Corinne and Josh and how they courageously step forward despite the fear of what's ahead, and how they focus on the ground and scaffolding that's beneath them. Soak in the goodness, like this piece of bread being dipped into this delicious soup. And with this bite, I say so long until our next episode. Feed your fire where food nurtures growth. Feed Your Fire is sponsored by Pro-Chi Plant Energy. Visit prochiplantenergy.com and fill up with intention. That's PROCHI plantenergy.com.